Okay, I think what's wrong here is I need to spread this thing out, and also these things are getting stuck up here, so I actually think I need to get a flathead while I spread it and then push down on both sides of these circlips, because I think it's getting caught at the lip of here, just at the tip of this. So I need to push it down so it clears it, and then I can pull this out, because I can actually spin this bearing. Yeah, see, I can spin that bearing. So I don't know why they designed it like this, but this is really dumb. This, not only do you need to spread it, but you're gonna have to force it down so it clears this. Alright, believe it or not, I've actually been trying to get these two out like for hours. I kept trying to push it out this way and it wasn't working. Then I just realized, what if I try to smash it in this way? So I spread this, and I guess it's got to go inwards. So I don't know how I got this one out this way. Maybe that's why it's sticking up. I'll check the video again. Maybe I have this thing upside down. So it's really hard to get this back in, so I held it with those pliers, and then on the outer wall, I had to tap it in with a rubber mallet all the way across. Just lightly tap it. Don't tap on the inside, because then you could bust the ball bearings. So just lightly tap on the outside, and that kind of helped force the ring open. Yeah, I don't know why, but the way that they designed this ring retention system is really stupid. It doesn't work, and it's just a huge hassle to take this thing in and out. So that's what I had to do. Alright, I've actually been working on this for like hours. Believe it or not, this is what I had to do to get the new bearing in. This is one of the old bearings. I think it's like it was this one. So I used an old bearing, washer, coupler nut, threaded rod, and I had to hold the circlip open while I used a wrench to tighten this. And I actually don't even know how it worked, but it did work. So I did that, and on the other side, this is actually for something else, that's why it's so long, and plus I haven't cut it. But on the other side is this, and this is the exact same bearing that I put in, the new bearing. So this is the old one, and that's the new one. And a washer, coupler nut. And all I can say is this is probably like the most difficult thing I've ever had to do on a car. The level of difficulty for some reason is like a 10, and it shouldn't be. Maybe it's just me, but this is by far the most difficult thing that I've had to put in a car. Okay, here's a look at the setup again. It's a threaded rod, coupler nut, the old bearing, the other old bearing, coupler nut, and so I had to spread this open while I did all that crazy stuff. And also, one really important thing, I used transmission fluid to oil up the inside surface of this and on the bearing itself. I used a lot on this side and on the other side, and I actually can't even believe it worked, but nothing else is working. So yeah, the level of difficulty was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Alright, to replace this bearing right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to destroy this outer cage, and that's going to give me access to this top lip, and I'll be able to get to that top lip using this. I'll push up against it, and then I'll put this socket on top of this part. This part doesn't move. So once I clamp onto this top lip, I'll push down on here, and it should drive this this inner race out. And then to get the new one back on, I'm going to use one of these. This goes on the outside. It's going to push up on the lip of the inner race, and I'll probably try to heat up the whole bearing first, put it on. I might put this in the fridge, and then I'll lightly tap it in with this. I might use this part too, but this one might be a better fit. Alright, so trying to take a flathead to rip out the outer cage didn't work that well, because this is a lot stronger than I thought. So I used large bearing separator. I think it's 8.5 inch. So I stuck it on the bottom here, and it would be nice if it takes the whole thing off, but basically all I need to make sure is that this socket is centered. And then once it is, I should be able to use my impact gun on this. So the head is 19 millimeters, and hopefully this works. And actually it's taking off the whole inner race, so this is actually a lot easier than I thought. Oh. Alright, so that was much easier than I thought. The only problem left is trying to get it back on. It feels smooth, even though it looks really burnt. Or maybe that's dirt. It's probably... It actually probably is just dirty oil. So I was right, it's just dirty oil. Dirty oil. So all we need to do now is put the new one on. And I might take a heat gun to this, and then I'll just push it down on the outer race. Actually, I'll just pound it in like that. Try not to hit on the outside because you'll damage this bearing. I put this in the freezer and I heated this up. It's going down, but slow. Alright, so replacing this bearing I thought was going to be the hardest part, but this actually turned out really easy. And it looks like it actually bottomed out. It's hard to see on camera, but I'm pretty sure it did bottom out. And so for some reason, changing these case bearings was like the most difficult thing I've ever done. And I don't know if I damaged one of them or if it came damaged, but this one that I put in, it's really loose. It's hard to tell, but it's rattling. In the case it was rattling. I don't know, because I hit here and so maybe I fixed it. But yeah. The inside plate just doesn't seem right. And it was making rattling sound earlier. Okay, on the other side of this is the race for the bearing for the differential. And how I'm getting this out is on my master ball joint adapter kit, it came with this. So I'm gonna put it like here and just lightly tap it out. Just like that. After I pounded it out, here's what I found. This right here basically is the same principle as a piston ring, because it's got the slit here. So I believe this is actually a spacer, and it's really precise. So if you have to replace this, you have to get a caliper and measure thickness. And this isn't so important, but what's weird is I don't know if I pounded it really hard or what, but I actually imprinted the lettering from the bearing onto here. If I can focus on this. As you can see, I must have pounded it so hard that I imprinted the bearing. Yeah, the text from the bearing, or the race, onto here. And this is actually bowed. You can see it's bowed like that, probably because when I pounded it out. It might still be okay. I'll probably get another one if I can, but this probably should be okay to reuse. And then this is the old one, but the new one would just go on like this. And you can see that it's actually, this one's bowed out like this, because the bearing on the differential is tapered. It's tapered like that. Yeah, because obviously it wouldn't go like this, because the bearing wouldn't be able to spin on this. Alright, I'm gonna include this now in case I forget. You can see that the entire bearing actually is loose in here, just very slightly loose. And the way I'm gonna fix that is I'm gonna look on here, and I heard that 3 stakes isn't enough, so you have to go 5 or 6 stakes around here. So basically what you can do is get a it's like a punch or center punch. I don't know what it's called, but you're gonna punch it around this edge. So basically you're gonna kind of fold the aluminum case to the bearing so it won't spin. See, because here's the center part spinning, but this is actually the edge, the whole entire edge spinning. Right now it's not that bad, but so I'm gonna probably try to stake it in probably 6 places, and I don't think I have to punch down too hard because I don't want it too stiff, just a little bit since it's not that loose. Alright, I'm just going to include this also in case, well, most people don't get to see this many parts, but I basically have, I would guess, like $2,500 to $3,000 worth of parts into this. So this is what parts look like from Honda, and most of this, like I'd say about 90% of this stuff is from Majestic Honda. So here's one thing I didn't expect actually. Here's the Oem filter, and it's not that it's weird or anything, but the reason why I bought this one, and it was like $71, is, well, I thought there would be a bypass hole in here, which the aftermarket one, I was worried that it didn't have it. And I've heard that these things, once they get really clogged up, that the filter actually bursts and everything gets thrown all over the transmission, which I actually like, because that way there is a way for the fluid to bypass in case it gets too clogged. Another thing that's weird is, let's see, this is yellow filter media, and that's not weird, but what's weird is, here's an aftermarket one which I didn't want to use. This is like $18, and it looks almost exactly like the OEM one. So I haven't cut this open, but this one, the aftermarket one, is Filtran, and its filter media is also yellow. So however they copied this, it looks almost identical to the OEM one, except I don't know if you can see, but the seam has a bunch of dots on it. Yeah, it's hard to see, but there's dots on the seam, and the OEM one doesn't look like it has it. I should probably take it out. Anyways, so I don't know if I wasted a bunch of money trying to get that, but because I haven't cut this thing open to see if there actually is a bypass hole. If they're both the same, then, well, it doesn't matter. I already got it. I'm not gonna try to return it. So these are bearings for the third gear, or the third clutch, I mean. And here's what gaskets look like for the transmission case. Here's the left side cover. Some people call it the end cover. And here's for the main transmission case. And this one's probably pretty expensive. What's weird is it's warped. So I'm guessing the plastic got shrunk in storage. Like maybe their storage was out in the hot sun or something. But that's not a big deal. Actually, I think these are O-rings. I think these are mostly O-rings. Because I didn't trust the parts from it was the Ray Bessos kit, Transtech kit. I forgot what it's called. So I got a bunch of the OEM O-rings, and that cost like a small fortune. And then these, I think these are the discs and the discs and plates. So some people like to call it frictions and steels, but these are the discs and plates. the snap ring for the clutch guide, also known as the drum, some people like to call it. Here's one of the special steels. It's not like the rest because this groove right here is where the spring ring goes into. That's why it's different. But the reason why I got the OEM plates is because the Ray Bessos ones are really rough, and that's the same problem that originally these transmissions had. So if you feel it, also just put oil on it and then push them together and try to rub them and see if there's a lot of friction. If there is, then get the OEM ones, because by now they should have revised it. So here's one of the plates. It looks like another thing that Majestic likes to do is they staple identical parts together. So these, I'm guessing, are probably the same part numbers. Yeah, I think they're the same. Oh, this thing actually just got like some kind of weird burn on it. Maybe it's oil. Yeah, hopefully that's just oil. That's really weird, actually. I think this is probably the low clutch hold plates. So after I get the parts, I have to go back and I punch in the part number to figure out which where this thing goes in the transmission. Because once I pull up the diagram, I meticulously pick out each part that I want. And mostly I pick the parts that are wear items, like the bearings or the plates or the discs or the O-rings. And then here's something pretty interesting. This one's a special one because this is the third gear, and they wrap it in this paper. Oh, actually no, this is probably the third piston. So that means, yeah, this one's the third gear. So there's the part. And these part numbers I'm showing you don't matter because you might have the 4-speed transmission. So this is how it's wrapped when you get it. Alright, I have a way of removing this. Actually, the only way I can think of is I tried. What's weird is these two, the tips, actually look like the same thickness. Except for this one's just slightly smaller for some reason. I mean, you could sharpen this on some sandpaper or whatever, or out on the concrete outside. But anyways, this one seems to work okay, so here's how I'm going to take this off. Just jam it in here and just lightly pound it out. And just go all the way around. And I'm looking at the gap. If the gap's bigger or smaller in some areas, I'm going to try to wedge out the part that's thinner. So this kind of looks thinner. So I'll just stab this. And I don't know if you can see, but the gap's getting bigger. Gap's getting just slightly bigger. So what that means is I can use the stronger screwdriver. Or actually I could probably just use a stubby one. See, I couldn't even get a bearing splitter on here because it's so small. I probably could now, but this seems to be okay, so. This is basically what a bearing splitter does. It just wedges it on all sides, or both sides. So I can't really get... I need something thicker now, so... Or I could do this. Actually, this might work. This is for paint cans, to get the lid off. So maybe this could work. You're not really supposed to be prying on this outer edge because it could bust off. Then I don't know if there's a ledge here, like a lip, where I could grab onto, but I'm not reusing this bearing, and it actually feels pretty strong. Actually, I can see it flexing. But I hear it. I don't know if you heard that, but I hear it pulling off that friction sound that you hear. Yeah, you hear that? Here, I'm gonna. Yeah, that sound is not the sound of this rubbing up against here. That's the sound of the inner bearing race like pulling off. Yeah, if you heard that, that's pretty loud. And this is third clutch guide, also known as drum. So I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna try to torque it off, not using this kind of leverage, but like a twisting motion. Yeah, you should have heard that sound. That's friction from metal on metal. So this works. I'm just going 90 degrees, or not really. I'm just rotating it a little bit. And so that's how you can take it off. So here's the bottom side. So I'm guessing the top side is supposed to be the side that's got the print on it. It says Japan EC. And there's the part number or model number. And there's the part that says Japan EC. Alright, so there's some dirt or grime here that I'm gonna clean off with brake cleaner and a paper towel. And so something interesting is you can see that there's a channel or a groove in here for the transmission oil to go under the bearing to lubricate it, to help lubricate it. And so the race for the bearing looks smooth, it looks pretty good. So I can reuse this guide. And just remember, we're also gonna replace, there's an O-ring here, right there. And I'll have to double check the diagram. I think that's probably it. And then the other two O-rings are on the piston itself. Okay, so this is the new part. That's the part number. This is 2002 Odyssey BYBA 5-speed. And also I didn't notice that they both do say NTN. Except the letter on this seems like thinner, like laser etched or something. And it's thicker on here. That probably doesn't mean anything. But what does mean something is the new part is like super smooth. So I don't know if I washed. No, I didn't even wash this in water in that acid cleaner. So, but I can feel there's like vibration. I can feel the vibration on this, just like a tiny bit. It's probably still good bearing, but I'm really glad I got this replacement one. And this one's ultra smooth. Okay, I'm pretty impatient. I think I put this in here for like maybe 5 minutes. And close enough, I guess. Okay, so oh wait, I forgot my glove.